Good evening, all of you. In the last class, we have started our discussion related to VPC. What is the meaning of VPC? VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. In AWS, we are creating virtual machines to set up our infrastructure. And what is this VPC? VPC is used to create isolated network. VPC, let me mute everybody. Yeah, VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. In AWS, VPC is one service available in the AWS that is called Virtual Private Cloud. Using VPC, we can create isolated network. Using VPC, we can create isolated network for our projects in AWS cloud. When we are talking about VPC, we need to understand some topics, or we can say some concepts that we are going to use to set up our VPC. We already know what is VPC. Then what is the next step that we need to know? Subnets. Okay, can you tell me what is a subnet? Subnet is nothing but partition in VPC. Subnets are two types. What are those two types of subnets we have? One is public subnet and second one is private subnet. One is public subnet, another one is private subnet. Public subnet means no internet connectivity. Sorry, private subnet means no internet connectivity. No internet connectivity. Public subnet means internet connectivity will be available. Public subnet means internet connectivity will be available. We will launch our resources in the AWS using subnets. We will launch our AWS resources using VPC and subnets. Within the VPC, we are going to create a subnet. Within the VPC, we are going to create the subnet. Subnet is nothing but subpart of partition in the VPC. Subnet nothing but partition in the VPC. Subnets are divided into two types. One is called public subnet. Another one is called as private subnet. Private subnet means no internet connectivity. Public subnet means internet connectivity will be available. Where to secure our instances, where we will launch them? Are you going to launch your database EC2 everything on the public, or you are going to launch them on the private subnets? We will launch our AWS resources. On the private subnets so that internet connection will not be available. Nobody can access them. All right. Next one. What is internet gateway? Can anyone tell me what is the purpose of internet gateway, which is also called as IGW in the AWS? What is the purpose of internet gateway? Internet gateway is used to allow incoming and outgoing traffic from our VPC. IGW is used to allow incoming and outgoing traffic for VPC. Incoming and outgoing traffic for our VPC, we are going to use this internet gateway. Now, next one, what is routing table? Can you guys tell me what is routing table in the EC2? Routing table is used to configure routing the request from internet gateway to subnets. Routing table is used to configure how to route the traffic to the subnets. Which request should go to which subnet, that we are going to configure as part of routing table. Route table is used to configure routing for subnets within VPC. Routing table is used to configure the routing for subnets within VPC. Okay, and the next one, what is the NAT gateway? Can anyone tell me what is the purpose of NAT gateway? What is the purpose of NAT gateway? What is the purpose of NAT gateway? What is NAT gateway? NAT gateway is used to allow only outgoing traffic from the subnets, outgoing network. NAT gateway is used to allow only outgoing network from the subnet, no incoming, only outgoing. NAT gateway is used to restrict incoming traffic and allow outgoing traffic. NAT gateway is used to restrict incoming traffic and allow outgoing traffic in VPC subnets. Now, what is security group? What is a security group in the VPCs, guys? Why we are going to use the security group? Security group is used to configure the rules to allow the traffic. Security group is used to configure rules or protocols to allow the traffic. Okay, now what is the purpose of network access control list? What is the purpose of NACL? NACL is used to configure the rules to deny. NACL is used to configure rules to deny the traffic. So using all these concepts, we are going to set up a VPC, virtual private cloud, in the AWS to secure our AWS resources. Using all these concepts, we are going to configure VPC to secure our resources, in the AWS. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's look at these things in the internet, what they are talking about these things, guys. Now, can you see what is VPC? Logically isolated virtual private cloud is called as Amazon VPC. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud is a service that lets you launch AWS resources in the logically isolated virtual network that you define. For your project, you isolate your network in the AWS by using this VPC. Then what is subnets? Subnet is nothing but a subnetwork, is a segmented piece of a large network. VPC nothing but it is a big network. That big network we are going to convert into subnetworks by using subnets. That means main network, that is called VPC. Inside that VPC, we are going to create the subnetworks. Let me show you that. So this one, if you take as one VPC, this is a very large network. For my AWS infrastructure, I am using this VPC. That is a very large network. Now, how can I do subparts? How can I do the segmentation of this VPC? That's where we are going to convert. We are going to set up a subnets, sub part of the VPC. Subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3, like this we are going to configure this. So now this is subnet 1 and this is subnet 2. How many subnets you want, you can create. Subnet 1, subnet 2 and subnet 3, like this I am going to create. Subnet nothing but partitioning of our VPC. Subnet is nothing but partition in VPC. We can also call it as subnetwork in large network. You have a large network. In that large network, we are doing the partitioning by using subnets. All right. Next one, what is routing table, or what is internet gateway? What is internet gateway in AWS? What is internet gateway? Connect to the internet using an internet gateway in the AWS. Connect to the internet using internet gateway. Okay. What is the difference between NAT gateway and internet gateway. What is the difference between NAT gateway and internet gateway? What internet gateway is doing you? What is internet gateway allowing you? Come on, guys. What internet gateway is allowing you? Internet gateway is allowing you to access everybody. Internet connection for your VPC. VPC will have an internet connection so that everybody can access your network. Then internet gateway allows instances with public IPs to access the internet. NAT gateway allows the instances with no public IPs to access the internet. Internet gateway is a logical connection between the Amazon VPC and the internet. Internet gateway is a logical connection between an Amazon VPC and the internet. It is not a physical device. Only one can be associated with each VPC. For every VPC, we are going to set up one internet gateway. That's a very good point. For every, it is a logical connection is used to allow the incoming and outgoing traffic for the VPC. Logical connection between Amazon VPC and the internet. Logical connection between internet and Amazon VPC. Internet and Amazon VPC. Every VPC will have its own internet gateway. Every VPC will have its own internet gateway. It is used to allow the incoming and outgoing traffic for our VPC. Very good. Right. If your VPC does not have an internet gateway, can anybody access our VPC? If the people don't have if the VPC doesn't have the internet gateway, then people can access our resources in the VPC. People cannot access the resources in the VPC. People cannot access that. Okay. Right. What is NAT gateway? NAT gateway is also a internet, but there is a difference. It allows resources in a private subnet to access the internet. It will only works in one way. The internet at large cannot go through your NAT to your private resource unless you explicitly allow it. Okay, the benefit of using NAT, it is fully managed service, just create and works automatically, including failover. NAT gateway supports 5 GB of bandwidth and automatically scales up to 45 Gbps. NAT instances is limited to the bandwidth associated with EC2 instances. Security groups cannot be attached with the NAT gateways. You need one in each availability zone since they only operate in the single availability zone. For every availability zone, we need to create the NAT gateway. NAT gateway is going to allow you the resources can be publicly exposed. The resources will be not exposed publicly if you go for NAT gateway. NAT gateway is used to restrict incoming traffic and allow outgoing traffic in VPC subnets. One-way traffic. It supports only one-way traffic. It supports only one-way traffic. Very good. Now, security group is used to configure the rules or protocols to allow the traffic. Can I use security group for the NAT gateway? Can I use the security group for the NAT gateway? I cannot use the security group for the NAT gateway. Very good. What is a routing table? What is a routing table? Come on, guys. What is routing table in AWS? Routing table in AWS. What is the routing table in the AWS? It is used to router which request should go to which subnet. Which request should go to which subnet, that routing will be configured. Routings, which request should go to which subnet, that routing configuration will be available. Each subnet in your VPC must be associated with a route table which controls the routing for the subnet. A subnet can be explicitly associated with a custom routing table. Main route table automatically comes with VPC. It controls the routing for all the subnets that are not explicitly associated with any other route table. Custom route table is empty. By default, you add the routes whatever you need. Okay, local route for communication with the VPC. Every subnet should have a routing table. Every subnet should be connected to the routing table. Every subnet in VPC should connect with the routing table. Every subnet in VPC should connect with the routing table. The routing table will decide the routes, which request should go to which subnet. Which request is coming to our VPC, that request should go to which subnet, that configuration is available in the routing table. NAT gateway is used to restrict incoming traffic and allow outgoing traffic in the VPC subnets. It supports only one-way traffic, only outgoing, no incoming. Security group. What is the purpose of security group? Security group is used to configure the rules or protocols to allow the traffic. to allow the traffic. It doesn't support for denying. It does not support. SG will not support. SG will not support for deny. Okay. NACL is used to configure the rules to deny the traffic. Now, what is this NACL? Security group already we discussed. What is this NACL in the AWS? Can you check it? NACL in the AWS. Hey, Baba. NACL in AWS, not chemistry NACL. Controls traffic to or from for a subnet according to set of inbound and outbound rules. This means it represents network level security. AWS security groups versus NACLs control traffic to subnets using network ACLs. NACL, network access control list. At the network level, it is going to provide the security. Okay. Now NACL refers to network access control list, which helps you provide a layer of security to the Amazon Web Services stack. NACL helps you in providing a firewall, thereby helping secure the VPCs and subnets. It helps to provide a security layer which controls efficiently manages the traffic that moves around the subnet. It is an optional layer for VPC, which adds another security layer to the Amazon service. Virtual private, whenever we are using virtual private cloud with the subnets, then it is recommended to go for NACL. It will add a network level security for our VPC. NACL is used to configure the rules to deny the traffic. NACL will provide network access control list. NACL will provide additional security for VPC at network level. Now, security group will provide the security at the resource level or at the network level. The difference between security group and NACL. Can you tell me, guys? Can you tell me? Security group will provide the restriction at the resource level or at the network level. Security group will provide the security at the resource level. NACL is providing the security at the VPC level. NACL will provide the additional security for the VPC at the network level. Now, are you guys clear with all these topics? Are you guys clear with all these topics? Subnets. If you want to work with VPC, you need to clear with all these topics. VPC, virtual private cloud. Using VPC, we can create isolated network for our projects in the AWS cloud. To work with VPC, we need to have the knowledge on below topics. To work with VPC, we need to have knowledge on below topics. What are those? Subnets, internet gateway, route table, NAT gateway, security groups, NACL. Subnet nothing but a subnetwork in the large network. VPC is a large network, subnet is a subnetwork. Subnet is nothing but partition in the VPC, subnetwork in the large network, subnetwork in the VPC. We can say subnetwork in the VPC. Very good. Next one, subnets are divided into two types. One is called public subnet, second one is called private subnet. Private subnet means no internet connection, and public subnet means internet connectivity will be available. We will launch our AWS resources using VPC and subnets. Okay, we will keep the resources in the subnets. Next one, to establish net connectivity for our VPC, we are going to use internet gateway. Logical connection between the internet and Amazon VPC. Every VPC will have internet gateway. Every VPC will have internet gateway. Internet gateway is used to allow the incoming and outgoing traffic for our VPC. Everybody can access our VPC by using internet gateway. Route table, routing table. Route table is used to configure the routing for subnets within VPC. Every subnet in VPC should connect with the route table. Every subnet in VPC should connect with route table. NAT gateway is used to restrict incoming traffic and allow outgoing traffic in our outgoing traffic for subnets. It supports only one-way traffic, right? Security group will provide the security at the resource level. We can configure only allow by using security group. It doesn't support for deny. Now, if you want to provide the security for your VPC at the network layer, then we have a additional security in the AWS that is called NACL, Network Access Control List. NACL stands for Network Access Control List. It is additional security layer in VPC. Additional security layer in VPC. Very clear. Next one, very important topic, guys. Concentrate. The next topic is very important. Most of the people will do mistake here only. Theoretically, we understood what is VPC and what are the concepts available in the VPC. Now, in order to create the VPC practically, most of the people are going to do the mistakes. Most of the people are going to do the mistakes. That is called arranging IPs. Arranging the IPs in the VPC, guys. Arranging the IPs in the VPC. That is the most of the people are going to get confused here, and they are going to do the mistakes here only. Most of the people are going to do the mistakes here only. Now let us see here. As I discussed yesterday, if you have a land, are you going to construct your house in the entire land? Are you going to construct your house in the entire land? Now here one bedroom, here one bedroom, and here another bedroom. Okay, and here kitchen, here main gate, here one gate for master bedroom, one gate for the child bedroom, and one gate for the kitchen. Will you do house construction in the entire space? No. What you will do? In that space, we are going to construct the house by leaving some space in the corners so that we can use that space for our gardening. We can use that space for our gardening purpose or for our parking purpose. In future, you may purchase a car. If you do the practice properly, the DevOps and AWS, you will get a good job. Then you will purchase a car for your roaming purpose. If you don't practice properly, then you will not get the job. Then you need to purchase the auto. Okay, it depends on whether you are going to purchase the auto for driving or you are going to purchase the car. In order to keep that auto or car in our house, we need to have some parking area. Yes or no? Are you going to construct the house in the entire land, or you will give some space for parking and for gardening? You will give some space for parking and gardening. We are not going to utilize the entire space for a house construction. Similarly, I am going to take a VPC, guys. I'm going to take a VPC. Whenever we take a VPC nothing but creating a network. Whenever we are creating a network, AWS is going to provide you 0 to 65535 IPs for you. 65535, that means 65,536 IP addresses will be provided for you in the AWS. So 65536 IPs will be available. In that, it is going to start from the 0. That's why we will call it as 65535 IPs. Now, using all these IPs, can we create 2 subnets by using all these IPs? Are you going to create all these IPs to create the 2 subnets? Divide those IPs which are given by the VPC into 2 parts. Divide those IP addresses into 2 parts. Can I use all the IPs into 2 parts? Can I divide all the IPs into 2 parts? Use the first set into subnet 1. Use the second set into subnet 2. Are you going to divide the IPs like this in the VPC? Are you going to divide like this in the VPC, guys? Can we do like that? Is it recommended to do like that? Is it recommended to do like that? Is it recommended to do like that, or it is not recommended to do like that? It is not at all recommended to do like that. Why it is not recommended to do like that? Why it is not recommended to do like that? If you do like this, if you divide them into 2 parts, in future, can you create another subnet? Do you have IPs or you don't have IPs? Can you create IPs in the future, or you cannot create IPs in the future? you cannot create the IPs in the future. Okay. This is called VPC sizing. What is this concept, guys? VPC sizing. VPC sizing nothing but allocating the IPs to our VPC and subnets. VPC sizing is the most important thing when you go for virtual private cloud concept. VPC sizing means allocating IP addresses for our private cloud, for our virtual cloud. VPC sizing means allocating IP addresses for our virtual cloud. Okay. If we take 100 IPs, if we take 100 IPs in the VPC, for example, if we take 100 IPs in VPC, for example, I have taken 100 IPs in VPC. I have taken 100 IPs in VPC. Can I create subnet 1 with 1 to 50 IPs? Then can I create subnet 2 with 51 to 100 IPs? Can I do VPC sizing like this? I want to create a virtual private cloud for my project. I'm creating a VPC with 100 IP addresses. That means 100 IPs I can use. 100 resources I can run in the VPC. I have taken 100 IPs. Can I create one subnet with 50 IPs, another subnet with 50 IPs? Then what will happen? If I do sizing like this, if I do VPC sizing like above, then all my 100 IPs got completed. All my 100 IPs got completed. If I get some requirement in future, if I get some new requirement in future, I don't have IPs to launch my resources. I don't have IPs to launch my resources. Now tell me, guys, are you going to do the VPC sizing with all the IPs you got from the AWS? Are you going to do the VPC sizing with all the IPs you got from the AWS? We need to keep the IPs in the reserve mode. Always we need to keep IPs in the reserve mode. If you take 100 IPs from the AWS, don't create subnets with 1 to 50 and 51. Out of the 100, you use 50 IPs for your 2 subnets. You keep the 50 IPs in the reserve mode. In future, if you get any requirement, you have a buffer of IPs. So always you need to do the VPC sizing by keeping the IP addresses in the buffer for future purpose. For the future purpose. To overcome the above problem, to overcome this problem, we don't allocate all IPs. We don't allocate all IPs to subnets. We don't allocate all IPs to subnets. What we will do? We will allocate few IPs to subnets, and we will keep few IPs for future purpose. IPs for future purpose. That is nothing but reserving. I'm going for IPs reserving when I go for VPC. I'm going for IPs reserving when I go for VPC. Guys, tell me why I am not using all the IPs for my subnets. How I am going to use the IPs? How I am going to do this now? How I am going to do this now? Come on. Come on. We are going to allocate the few IPs and we will keep the few IPs in the buffer for the future purpose. Okay. Now, how we are going to allocate the IPs? IP ranges. Very, very important. IP ranges will be calculated in 2 power. IP ranges will be calculated in 2 power. Now, generally, how we will represent the 2 powers, guys? How to represent the 2 power? Here I will take 2. Then power means I will take here 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, 2 power 3, 2 power 4, 2 power 5, 2 power 6. Like this, we are going to represent them in the 2 powers. 2 power. 2 power 0 means 1. I'm going to represent IP ranges in the 2 power. Right. Now here I'm going to, someone is saying that not getting what is 1 to 50, 50 to 100. You have 100 numbers, man. I'm allocating 1 to 50 numbers for one subnet. Another 50 numbers I'm allocating to another subnet. You have 100 rupees. How you will distribute to 2 people? You have 100 rupees. How you will distribute to 2 people? 50 rupees you will give to another one person. 50 rupees you will give to another person. It is just a distribution, man. Here I have 100 IP addresses. First 50 IP addresses I will give for subnet 1. Another 50 IP addresses I will give for subnet 2. This is called partitioning. I'm doing VPC sizing. I want to create a VPC. When you create the VPC, AWS will give you IP addresses to use. AWS will give you IP addresses to use. Getting my point? Whenever you are creating a VPC, you need to do the IP sizing. VPC sizing, IP ranges you have to decide. How to decide the IP ranges? IP ranges will be calculated in the 2 power. IP ranges will be calculated in the 2 power. Guys, note down that I'm using IPv4 version. I'm using IPv4 version. Basically, IP addresses are divided into 2 types: IPv4 version, IPv6 version. I'm talking about which version of the IP address now? 4th version I'm talking about. We will see IPv6 version later point of time. Today I'm talking about IPv4 version. IP ranges will be calculated in the 2 power. IPv version calculated in the 2 power. Okay. Now IPv4 means it contains 4 parts. It contains 4 parts. IPv4. What are the 4 parts it will contain? Now 10.0.0.1. This is one example. 4 parts in the IP address. These 4 parts are called as 4 octets. 4 parts are called as 4 octets in the IP address. 10.0.0.1. 4 parts will be available in the IP address. These 4 parts are available. Every part is called as 1 octet. Every octet contains 8 bits. Every octet contains 8 bits. 4 octets multiplied by 8 bits. So total, how many bits are there in the IP address in the IPv4 version? How many bits are available here? 32 bits are available in the IP. Are you guys able to understand how many bits can be there in the IP now? 32 bits can be available in the IPv4. IPv4 is one type of IP. IPv6 is another type of IP. Currently, I am talking about IPv4. IPv4 contains 4 parts in the IP address. Every part is called as 1 octet. So total 4 parts are available. That means 4 octets are available. 4 octet into 8 bytes is equal to 32 bits available. 8 bits. Each octet contains 8 bits. So 4 octets into 8 bits is equal to 32 bits, guys. It is equal to 32 bits. Now, IP, if we give IP range, if we give IP range as /16, if we give IP range as /16, then what it will do? It will do 2 power of 32 minus 16. 32 bits will be available and I am giving 16. So it is going to minus the 16 bits you have given from the total bits. Total bits of IPv4 is what? 32. 32 minus 16. Then what you are going to get? You are going to get 2 power 16. 2 power 16 means what? 65536. 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into for 16 times. If you do that multiplication, you are going to get a total how many IP addresses you can get in the VPC. If you go with the /16 range, 65536 IP addresses we are going to get. Let's log in into our AWS dashboard. Go to VPC. Go to VPC, isolated cloud, private, virtual private cloud. Let's go for VPC. By default, there is one default VPC available. Don't touch that, guys. Launch VPC wizard, VPC subnets, etc. I want to go for VPC subnets, etc. Can you see cider block? Cider block nothing but what is the range of the IP you want to use? What is the default range they are suggesting, guys? What is the default range they are suggesting? /16, 10.0.0.0. How many parts available in the IP address? Can you tell me how many parts available in the IP address? 6 parts are available. Which IP address I am using? Which IP address I am using? IPv4. If I use IPv6, then it is going to be different story. I'm not going with IPv6. I'm going with IPv4. IPv4 contains how many octets in the IP address? IPv4 contains how many octets in the IP address? Confusing, huh? We are entering into network. I told you VPC thoda confusing रहता है भाई. But you have to understand. If you want to create a virtual cloud, you need to do all the networking topics, networking concepts, IPv, IPv4, IPv6, IP ranges, and VPC sizing. We are trying to understand how to do the VPC sizing. What is the meaning of VPC sizing? What is the meaning of VPC sizing? We are going to create a VPC. If I want to create the first, come here, come to the AWS, select VPC, virtual private cloud. Now, currently, do I have any VPC here? Do I have any my VPC created? No. Can we create our own VPC? I want to create my own VPC. Now, select your VPC. Do I have any VPC? I have a default VPC which is created by AWS. I want to create my own VPC. Create the VPC. VPC only you want to create, or VPC with the cider block you want to create, subnets you want to create? I want to create VPC with the subnets. When I create VPC with the subnets, I need to select the cider block. What is the cider block? Nothing but IP range. How many IP addresses you want for your VPC? That is called cider block. When we are creating a VPC, you need to pass the cider block. If I pass the cider block as a 16, first understand which category of IPs we are using. We are using IPv4 or we are using IPv6. We are using IPv4 or IPv6, IP 4th version. If I go for IP version 4th, how many octets are there in my IP? 4 octets are available in my IP. Every octet contains how many bits? Every octet can contain 8 bits. So 4 octets into 8 bits, nothing but what? 32 bits will be available in my IP address. 32 bits will be available in my IP address. Now, when you are creating a IPv4, we need to tell the cider block. We need to tell the cider block. What is that cider block? Range of the IPs that you want to configure. Now, here I am giving the range as /16. If I give the range as a /16, what will happen? 2 power 32 minus 16. I'm giving only 16. What is the total? 32. Total IP bits, IPv4 bits are 32. Out of 32, how many I am giving? 16 I am giving. So how it is going to calculate now? It is going to calculate 2 power 32 minus 16. 2 power 32 minus 16. When we do 2 power 32 minus 16, then what will happen, guys? When I do 2 power 32 minus 16, then what will happen here? 32 minus 16 will give you 2 power 16. It will give you 2 power 16. 2 power 16 value is how much? 2 power 16 value is how much, guys? 2 power 16 value is equal to 65536. So if I give my cider block range as a /16, how many IP addresses I'm going to get from the AWS now? How many IP addresses I will get from the AWS now? No one is responding. How many IP addresses I'm getting from AWS now? 65536. 65536. That means how many IPs are available to use? How many IPs are available to use now? 65536 IP addresses are available for you to use. 0 to 65535. It is going to start from 0. 0 to 65535 IP addresses are available for you in the AWS for your VPC. Now, can we create a subnets by using these IP addresses now? Can we create subnets by using these IP addresses now? Are we going to use all these IPs for the subnets, or we will keep some IPs for the reservation, for buffer? We will keep some IPs for the buffer. Okay, sir, don't want to go for 16. Let me go for 32. When I go for 32, how many IPs I am getting? When I go for 32, how many IPs I am getting? Why I am getting only one IP when I go for 32? 2 power. Total bits are how many? 32. 32 minus 32 is equal to what? Is equal to what? 32 minus 32 is equal to what? 2 power of 32 minus 32, 0. 2 power of 0 is equal to what? 1. That means 1 IP. AWS will give you 1 IP if you select the range as 2 power 32. Slash 32 if you give slash 32 as a cider block. If you give your cider block as a slash 32, then AWS is going to give you, if you give that slash 16, it is going to give you 0 to 65536 IP addresses. If I give slash 32, how many IP addresses I'm going to get from the AWS? How many IP addresses I'm going to get from the AWS? Only one IP. Can I create a VPC with only one IP address? Is it sufficient? All right, guys. So if I give the range as a slash 32, what is the problem in the AWS, guys? If I give the range as a 32, what is the problem? If I give the range as a 32, how many IPs the AWS is going to provide for us? One IP. Is it sufficient for us to create the VPC with one IP? I will launch my EC2, one IP completed. What about my database? What about my S3? Do I have the IPs? Do I have the IPs to create my VPC? So can you give the cider block range as slash 32? Is it recommended? Is it recommended to give that range as a slash 32, guys? Tell me. Tell me, is it recommended or not recommended? It is not at all recommended, because if I give the range as a 32 total bits I can give minus 32, 2 power 0, 2 power 0 means I will get only one. I will get only one IP from the AWS. That is not at all sufficient to create my VPC. Okay. Can I try with 31? Can I try with 31? क्या होगा भाई? If I go with 31, I'm going with slash 31 cider block. Cider block range, I'm giving a slash 31 for my VPC. Then what will happen if I go with slash 31? It will become 2 power 32 minus 31. It will become 2 power 2 power 32, total bits 32 minus 31, which is equal to 2 power 1, which is equal to what, guys? 2 power 1. 2 power 1 means what? 2. Nothing but AWS will give you 2 IPs. 2 IPs are sufficient for you. 2 IPs are sufficient for you to set up your project network. 2 IPs are not sufficient for us. Chalo, theek hai. Can I go with the /30? Can I go with the /30? If I go with the /30, how many IPs I'm going to get now? Can you do the calculation? Can you do the calculation? In the IPv4 total, how many bits will be available? 32 bits will be available total. 32 minus 30. How many bits I'm going to get? How many? What is the range I'm going to get now? 2 power 2. 2 power 2. What is the 2 power 2? What is the meaning of 2 power 2? 2 into 2. How many IPs I'm going to get? 4. Is it recommended to go with the 4 IPs? Is it recommended to go with the 4 IPs to set up a network for our project? No. No, 4 IPs are not sufficient for me. Can I go with the 29 range? Can I go with the 29 range? If I go with the /29 cider block range, then how many IPs I'm going to get? Can we calculate now? 2 power 32. Guys, people may get a doubt. Sir, what is 2 power 32? Why are you using 32 always? Why don't you do 50 minus 30? Why I am using only 32? Why I am using only 32 to do the minus? Can you tell me why I am using only 32 for minus? 2 power 3. 2 power 3 nothing but 2 into 2 into 2. Total how many? 8. Not 6, man. 8. 2 into 2 into 2. Total 4 octets are available. For 4 octets, every octet can take only 8 bits. That's why total 32 bits. Here, how many IP addresses you are going to get for your project? How many IP addresses you are going to get for your project? 8 IPs. Is 8 IPs are sufficient for our project? 8 IPs are not sufficient for our project. 8 IPs are sufficient for our project, or 8 IPs are not sufficient for our project network? Guys, 8 IPs are sufficient or 8 IPs are not sufficient? 8 IPs are not sufficient for our project. Can you go with 29? Is it recommended to go with the /29 range? 8 IPs are sufficient? Come on. No. Now, if I go with the /28, if I go with the /28, can you tell me what will happen if I go with the /28? How many IPs I am going to get? 2 power 32 minus 28. Then what I will get? 2 power 4. 2 power 4. 2 power 4 into how many IPs we will get from AWS? AWS will provide you 16 IPs. Is it okay? Is it okay with the 16 IPs? It seems okay for the small project. 16 IP addresses is okay for the small project. Like this, we need to give the cider block ranges, guys. Like this, we need to give the cider block ranges when we are working with the AWS. When we are working with the AWS, we need to give the cider block ranges like this. Based on the range you are giving, AWS will decide. Now, give it as 31. If I give it as a 31, how many IPs AWS is giving for me? If I give as a 31, how many IPs I will get? 2 IPs. Is it showing the 2 IPs? Yes. If I give it as 30, 4 IPs. If I give it as 29, 8 IPs. If I give it as 28, 16 IPs. Is my calculation correct now? Whatever the calculation I have done for cider blocks, is my calculation correct or not? Is my calculation is correct or not? That calculation is correct. Okay. We are using which IP address? IPv4. IPv4 means what? 10.10.0.0.1. So total 4 octets. Total 4 octets. Every octet 8 bits. So total, how many bits it can take? 32 bits it can take. When you are going with when you are going with very important to understand the IP ranges when you are creating the VPC. That is called IP sizing. That is called IP sizing. Now tell me which pattern you will use to create your VPC. You will use 16 pattern or you will use 32 pattern. Will you use /16 or will you use /32? We will use /16. /16. Okay. /16. If I use /16, how many IPs I'm going to get? 65,000. If I use /16, how many IPs I'm going to get? 65,000 IP addresses I'm going to get. Okay. Okay. Are you guys able to understand about IPv4 ranges, CIDR block? IPv4 ranges and CIDR block? Read this once again. We are trying to understand VPC sizing. VPC sizing means allocating IP addresses for our virtual cloud. For example, I have taken 100 IPs in VPC. Now, can I allocate all the 100 IPs for the 2 subnets? If I allocate 100 IPs for the 2 subnets, my IPs are completed. In future, I cannot do anything in my VPC because I don't have IP. My size is only 100. I cannot do anything. So, are we going to allocate all your IPs for the subnets, or you will reserve some IPs for your future purpose? We will reserve IPs for the future purpose. How we are going to decide the CIDR block ranges for the IP addresses? IP ranges will be calculated in 2 power. I'm using IPv4 version. Okay, IPv4 version contains how many parts? 4 parts. Like this example, 10.0.0.1. 4 octets are available. Octets will be separated by dot. Every octet, this can contain 32 bits. This can contain 32 bits. This can contain this can contain 8 bits. 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 Every octet contains 8 bits. 4 octets are available. 4 into 8, it is equal to 32 bits. If we give IP range as a /16, then 2 power 32 minus 16 is equal to 2 power 16 equal to 65536 IPs we will get. 65536 IPs we are going to get. Are you guys getting my point? Are you guys getting my point? Fine. If you give anything other than 16, now how many IPs you are going to get? Can you calculate that? Can you calculate how many IPs you will get if you give any other number instead of 16? It will show you clearly. If I give 10, how many IPs I'm going to get? 4,000 approximately. If I give 15, 131k, 131k. If I give as 1, oh my god, how many IPs I'm going to get? Million IPs we are going to get. But do we really need this many? No. Basically, generally people will use /16, then we will get 65,536 IP addresses. 65,536 IP addresses we are going to get for the IPv4. For IPv4. Now, whenever we use this VPC, then we need to create subnets. We need to create the subnets. Okay, project VPC, subnet 1, subnet 2. In every 3 availability zones available, 3 availability zones available. In these availability zones, we need to create the subnets. For the subnets also, we need to decide the IPs that we will discuss in the next session. Okay, guys. So before coming to next session, you understand what is this IP range, what is IPv4, what is VPC sizing, what is CIDR block, that I want you people to understand before coming to next session. Okay, we will discuss in the next session. Tomorrow we don't have a class, guys. I told you that tomorrow I need leave. Tomorrow we don't have a class. 20th we don't have a class. 21st class I will update in the Telegram. If I come back to the Hyderabad by that time, I can take the session on 21st. Otherwise, I will cancel the classes for tomorrow and day after tomorrow. I will update you. Tomorrow for sure there is no class. Day after tomorrow class I will confirm in the Telegram. Is it okay? Can you guys practice this IPs, CIDR blocks? Can you check the CIDR block before coming to next session? VPC sizing, that is very, very, very important to create the VPC. Thank you guys. Yeah. Thank you. We'll see you in the next session. Bye-bye. Good night.